Thank you, Andy. I'm actually going to talk quite a lot, but not about marketing envy. We're going to talk about best practices that we've had with webinars in terms of the marketing aspects. Okay, while they solve Google Slides and presentation, I'll speak a bit about us. So thank you for coming today, weathering the storms, the rains, the floods that are upon us today. You are the brave few, and I'm proud of you all. Today is about webinars, but a big part of the webinars is getting people to the webinar, otherwise it's a bit lonely. And a lot of, like from experience working with quite a few companies and actually doing webinars ourselves, there's quite a few best practices. And I think they're not going to come as a complete surprise to all of you, but there's some techniques that we're seeing people missing out on again and again and again. And I think it's important to go over them and make sure that you're really, really prepared, A, for the webinar, and for the day after the webinar. Because a lot of times you think, oh, our job is done after the webinar, but it's a pity, because there's a lot of opportunities for promotion after the webinar itself. There you go. Okay, so, well, we do have to talk a bit about us. So we are Marketing Envy. We are an inbound marketing and a lead generation agency here in Tel Aviv, working with B2B enterprise that are selling to enterprise clients, a lot of clients here, and we provide content services, SEO, social media, post-promotion, but also PPC, lead generation. And to wrap it all up, we are a HubSpot partner, so most of our clients work with us on HubSpot. And what we've noticed is how webinars are so important in each and every part of what we do. So they're a good material to bring leads on PPC, obviously, but they're also very good to create content out of and create content around webinars before. And once you kind of go into the flow of creating webinars, it's really a big part of the automation process, of the nurture process. So before we start, do you all have your phone next to you? I'm sure you do. So there's this cool LinkedIn feature that really helps with networking. So all you have to do is, hold on. All you have to do is go to LinkedIn and click on the little button and find nearby. And it will magically and Bluetoothly show you all your people around you so you can add them and network as your hot content. So how about we take a minute or so to do that? All right, good. So everybody done that? You all added a lot of people? Happy? Got your networking out of the way? Let's get busy. So before the webinar, I have a question. How many people do you think you need to run a webinar? Come on, throw numbers. How many people do you think need to run a webinar? 2 to 3. Guess. Yeah? No one raised their hand. It's not this kind of session. I'm just telling people to answer. 3? Anyone else? Any other numbers? All right, so we're going to challenge you a bit. A good webinar needs a lot of people. And I'm jumping ahead here, actually. A good webinar needs around 5 to 6 people. And the reason is all the things that we are going to suggest for you to do. So open your webinar marketer ears and eyes, and let's start. So first of all, people don't realize that webinar is just another piece of content. You actually need it to be interesting. And the topic needs to be interesting. If no one is searching, if there's no search volume for the topic, if no one is talking about it, if there's no trend about this topic, just don't do a webinar about it. Webinar is not about you. It's about showing the world that you're an authority in your field. And so don't talk about yourself. Talk about what you can do. Talk about what the benefits of your product and your knowledge. Make sure that your host is someone that has good English. And I'm sorry to say, if you're Israeli native, then 80% is that you don't have a good enough English. Even though 90% of Israelis will say they do have a good enough English. They don't. So find someone who has really good English, and even if it's not, like, sometimes technical people are more authentic, even if though their English is not flawless, but sometimes they actually are really hard to understand. And so it's very important to actually choose someone who's clear. And also, are they interesting? Do they have an interesting voice? I mean, there's so much you can do as a marketer to help someone, lecture in a more interesting way. At the end, they actually need to be people who are fun to listen to, basically. Are they credible? Obviously, do they look presentable on camera? So no t-shirts. And also, put yourself in the seat of the target persona. Is it actually interesting? Is the thing I'm going to talk about is actually interesting to anyone? And obviously, decide on location. And if you use video, make sure that behind you is not a whiteboard with all the secrets of the company and then the new features of the product, or I don't know, weird paintings, as you can sometimes find. Okay, the other thing is that a lot of people just do a webinar without building a whole strategy around it. A webinar needs to be promoted. It needs to be promoted at least a month before. Sometimes you'll see more tractions towards the webinar a week or two before, but you need to start a month before to talk about it. You need to save the date, even if you don't have full topic, even if you don't have the speaker, save the date. It's a really good way to start talking about the webinar even before you're ready, just to make sure that people know, that people respond to. And the people who follow your company are actually likely to save the date. Share at least twice or even more, but don't just share from the company profile, share from the C-level people. So everyone who allows you to connect to their LinkedIn or put it in another social media platform, share the webinar for that platform. This is actually the most engagement that we're getting, the most leads that we're getting are coming from other profiles, not the company profile. It is more authentic, especially if it's the host. The host should really promote the webinar, because then it makes it personal to attend or not to attend. We sometimes use a countdown, so we actually load or post images with like 7 days, 6 days, 5 days to webinar. It actually creates more anticipation and keeps it top of mind. And send personal emails. So if you have prospects or people that you really want to close, or for example, opportunities that have salespeople should have salespeople owning the opportunities, send them a personal email from the salesperson. Don't do it as a marketing email. Do it as a personal invitation. That helps. So, in terms of email, so if you're using BrightTALK, obviously the email will be sent automatically. But what happens to all the people who haven't registered on BrightTALK yet? And so, again, send an invitation to your database, but also personalize the emails that are going out of BrightTALK. Even a bit of personalization can help a lot in terms of the open rate and the approach of people to those emails. And then remarketing. The first people, like if you don't like using PPC for webinars, at least use it for your audience on the website. So people who actually visited your website, they're more likely to be interested in webinars. They're probably a bit lower down the funnel, and a webinar can be just the right thing for them because they actually, they've been on your website because they want to know about you. They want to know about what you do. And a lot of companies don't do that. And the thing is, they don't do that because, I'm going to start creating ads and a campaign and tracking. You know what? Forget about it. Just take the posts on LinkedIn, the organic one, and boost them. Just promote them. You don't need to create a whole different campaigns around it. And the other thing is, people who previously attended webinars are actually the best audience to market to for this webinar as well, because the likelihood of them attending a webinar is high. So a month before, I don't know if you can see that. So start promoting posts for the event on PPC, run post promotion of existing posts, just to make sure that you reach your target audience, and create a landing page with BrightTALK embed form. So BrightTALK gives you a form, you can embed it on the landing page, and here's a little secret that took us a week to find. You can actually put a report with the URLs. So you can actually track the campaigns and see where people came from to BrightTALK. Always, always, always remember that to actually, prepare your slides. and upload them properly and test it. Test the equipment, test the audio, test the speaker, test the microphone. We really do recommend to buy a dedicated microphone. It works, it helps. To your phone, because it's done from your phone. Have at least 1 or 2 dry runs. No one likes dry runs, and especially your host. But your host needs to at least sit through a webinar, especially for the first time, and understand that he needs to talk closer to the microphone, or that he needs to really have a conversation with the person he's interviewing, or her interviewing. It's very important. And obviously, you need a proper internet connection. Always make sure there's a bottle of water there. And my own personal experience of starting my first webinar, and the person I was interviewing just spilled the whole glass of water as I was saying the announcement words for the webinar. Don't put it too close to your computer, trust me. During the webinar. So this is coming back for the question from before. Why does it take 3 to 6 people? So 1 host, 1 to 3 guests, and 1 to 2 operations. And actually, I think it should be 3 operations. And why? Because posting things like images from the webinar makes it very authentic. There's actually 2 people having a conversation there, right? But it's actually real people, and there's a webinar happening right now. So it might remind people to come and join the webinar, but even more important than that, you are a company who has something to say, and you're doing webinars, which already puts you above the other 50% of the companies who don't. And also post, like, if there's interesting questions coming up, before they're answered, or even after, someone on social media can immediately answer them, tag the person that asked them if they know the persona on LinkedIn, and there you go, you have more opportunities for sharing, more opportunities for viral engagement. Also on BrightTALK, sometimes your internet connection can have issues, and people might not hear you well, might not understand you well. So you might need to get feedback to slow down, or to take like 10 seconds break until the internet connection improves. So someone should always monitor, sit in a room next to you, or and actually listen to the webinar as it's going on, and give you feedback if you need to improve something. Obviously Q&A, but I think we all have someone, I hope we all have someone for Q&A. Now the after. The thing is, yes, BrightTALK automatically will send a thank you email. But what about those people who never responded to the email, who never registered? So people who registered, did not attend, will get an email. But what about all these people who open your email, but never actually registered? They are the first people to get an email. They should get an email as well from your own servers saying, guys, thank you for, in case you missed it, here is the webinar. And the approach to them should be different than people who were never interested, never opened the emails. So that is one thing that a lot of people are actually forgetting to do. And a personal email, and this is something that you should really try, it's really cool. If people are participating and you know them, send them swag, surprise them. Send them an email with like, I don't like the coupons because it's too lazy, but actually if like a week later they'll get a nice shirt or a nice, I don't know, whatever swag that you have, it's really cool to encourage people. Most of them will actually share it on social, and it's a really great way to encourage the people who ask questions during the webinar to come again. And obviously, share the replay on social media. You can take some of the questions or some of the highlight sentences, put them on an image, and presto, you have like 10 posts to put on social from one webinar, just with different text, different quotes, and link to the webinar. And that's very easy. Also, you can use another landing page for the recording, or just change the landing page that you use for register and just, calling a webinar replay. And the most important thing that almost no one does, send the webinar to be transcribed. A webinar, a good webinar, is an ebook. An ebook is 3 blogs. Your quarterly content plan is now done just because you had one webinar. And a lot of people think, oh, I'll turn my ebook into a webinar. They're right, but they don't think about the other thing. Like, a lot of things in webinar are not exactly like the ebook. A lot of the questions and answers have a lot of value. Just the Q&A part is at least a blog. Transcribing will cost you $10. And 2 hours more work, and you have a great blog or even an ebook. And most people don't do it, and it's a pity. Something else, especially if you use more dynamic or video or more dynamic slides, cut the webinar to 3, 4, 5 videos. So for example, if you have 3 speakers, each one will have a video of the time of the webinar, and post each one of those as videos, upload to YouTube as well. Because that's another, more materials that you can use. And obviously, to do teasers to send people to the video replay. That's all for now. Thank you very much.